I think I mishandled the situation. This is going to be long, I'm sorry. I have been friends with someone, let's call her Emily, for 13 years. We were best friends growing up. Emily is pretty reserved, but I never minded because I'm that way too. She was a neighborhood friend and knew my sister too. But she always used to put me and my sister, let's call her Sophia, 19F, against each other. Growing up, sometimes we would get into arguments. If I ever took Sophia's side, Emily would get really upset. This has continued into our adulthood. Emily will rant constantly about Sophia or other mutual friends for a few months. I've noticed she will exaggerate things to fit her perspective. But I also understand that it's normal to get frustrated and rant, so I never thought much of it. Over the past couple of years, Emily has really struggled with a serious case of depression. I hadn't been depressed before when her episode started, but I tried my best to support her and urged her to go to therapy. She was pretty reluctant but eventually agreed. She was also really unwilling to tell her parents about her depression. They did not know for the majority of the episode. Emily was getting worse and worse. I randomly saved her from a suicide attempt by showing up at a place she happened to be. She very nearly went to the hospital a few weeks later. I want to mention that she was also a good friend to me during this time and supported me and listened to me when I needed something. Then, I began to struggle with a depressive episode of my own. A few weeks later, my boyfriend broke up with me. He was my first boyfriend, so understandably I was really heartbroken. I definitely messed up here, because I knew she was struggling, but I spent a lot of time talking about how I felt with the breakup. Emily was my best friend at the time. I regret this because I knew she was not doing well. She would also often defend my ex-boyfriend, which would lead to me getting all riled up. I definitely said some things I regret in those moments. She also said some pretty hurtful things to me, as I did to her, and I feel awful. She was weirdly involved in texting my ex a bunch for some reason. I think this stressed her out more because she was trying to help us to stay friends. I did tell her I thought it was weird and that she didn't have to text him, but she was adamant. I should have been more firm about it. When she criticized my behavior and how we were talking, sometimes I would get defensive, but I did apologize and make changes so I wouldn't hurt her anymore. I knew it was time for a temporary break with Emily. We were making each other's problems worse. Around this time, she began to text me her suicidal thoughts and graphic details of herself HRM. She told me about her suicide date and plan. She also told me that if I stopped being friends with her, she would commit suicide. I couldn't ask for a break under these conditions. A few days later, I was really scared she would unalive herself, so I arranged for her to go to the hospital against her will. I involved mutual friends who had the means to transport her there, even though she did not want anyone to know about her mental health. Understandably, Emily was angry about this. During this time I reached out to her parents too, who responded better than she expected. Emily also ended up thanking me for getting her to the hospital when she was less angry. I promised her I would visit her in the hospital, so I did. Once she was discharged, I waited a few days and then asked her for space in the friendship, especially since my own mental health had been worsening. Later on, she went back to inpatient care. I have not been in touch on account of my worsening depression, which has gotten much better. It sounds like she's not doing well. However, I recently found out that she's been ranting about me to our mutual friends and also to Sophia. Some of the things she said are fair, like that I spent a lot of time talking about my ex and responded poorly to advice, but some are blatantly untrue, like that I ditched all my friends when I had a boyfriend and then asked for them back, or that I refused to hang out with her. She is very upset with my timing about asking for space too. She told her therapist there about this and they said that she should never talk to me again. The doctors say that that was me showing my true colors and how poorly I would treat a friend. Ada? What could I have done to handle this better? How do I move forward with her and my friend? She's ranting about me too?